Would you look at that? You clicked on my video and here I magically appeared. We're going to be going over all the kaijus up to Kong. Any other released kaijus will not be in the video. I'll probably update the video when 2 or 3 new guys come out, so don't worry when Mr. Krabs is not ranked. I really feel like I need to say this, but these rankings are from my experience alone, so if I put your favourite kaiju in F tier, please complain about it in the comments so I can promptly ignore you. Okay? Alright, let's go. To be completely honest, I don't think anyone really deserves to be an F tier. They're all good in some way, so I can't really call any of them bad. Here we have, in my opinion, the worst character in the game, and the only one in C tier. Now this really won't be surprising for most people, since he's the first dude you ever get. At the bottom of the barrel is G2000, and boy oh boy, where do I start with him? Easily one of the most brain-dead characters to play against, G2000 is pretty much the embodiment of a goose. They swat and hiss at you from a distance, but the second you're in its face, they just crumple. Having the slowest melee in the game makes it near impossible to start combos with someone unless they're already in your face and you get a lucky hit in. Other than that, his entire playstyle is beam spam and special 2 spam. Usually they're really predictable on what they're about to do, so if you play around them, they end up dropping like flies. His ultimate is one of the most difficult to dodge in the game unless you actively have over 95 stamina and manage to block it in time. Other than that, it's impossible to dodge without using your own ultimate's iframes. Not really much to say about this guy. He's about as beginners friendly as you can get, and because of this is rarely able to hold his own against better players. Overall, really not the best choice. At the bottom of B tier is Kong. Although the most recent addition to the game, Kong is massively lacking any pressure. Now what I mean by this is that Kong really doesn't have many moves that make me actively scared of him, as all of them can be easily blocked, and yes, this includes the uppercut. Because of this, and Kong being slightly slower than Zilla, he ends up feeling really underwhelming. At least with Zilla he has a fast attack speed for his specials, which makes them difficult to block if you aren't suspecting them, but with Kong you can quite literally just walk backwards and block when he goes to charge you. Anyways, enough of the Kong hate. Kong's active ability is he's able to hold up his axe and block any beams being fired at him, in turn giving him a melee and damage boost. Now this doesn't sound too bad until you realise you still take around half the damage from the beam, and how the damage boost isn't really worth the damage you actually take. With the charged axe, the advanced Kong combo does about 249 damage. Really not that bad, comparing without it, it does 214. But every time you charge the axe, the beam can still do up to 100 damage to you. In my opinion, 100 health for 30 extra damage in your combo really isn't worth it. Kong's ultimate also really isn't the best. It can be very easily blocked if you have over 96 stamina, so unfortunately poor Zilla can't block it. But also during the wind-up animation, if Kong is hit in any way, it will completely shut down the attack. Yeah, this really seems fair. Overall, Kong had really good potential but ended up underwhelming in most aspects. Next in line is G21. Now, my main problem with G21 is with his giant thickness comes giant slowness. I'm really hoping you already know why being slow in this game can put you at a massive disadvantage, but it's almost impossible to get in an opponent's face when they can just walk backwards and almost be the same speed as you. Now, this slowness should be countered by a special one, only there's one small problem with it. It's probably one of the most predictable moves in the entire game, like Auger's lunge. Only, unlike Auger's lunge, you can just simply step out of the way, or better yet, jump over the poor dude if you're playing as Zilla. Most of the time you'll only want to be using it when the opponent is blocking or if they're beaming a little bit too close to you. G21's ultimate is honestly pretty good. The only problem with it is that you almost always have to use it after a grab, otherwise you can just simply run out of the radius. Of course, because of this, Zilla can just jump out of the zone and Gigan can just fly upwards. Overall, really solid, but is very hard carried by his charge. For the bottom of A tier is Mecha. Now, I know I'm known to hate on Mecha a lot, but to be completely honest, he's nowhere near as bad as I say he is. Mecha is more or less G21, but without the weaknesses. Mecha is a kaiju that you do not want to use for massive high damage combos, but instead to slowly chip away at your opponent's health. Mecha's active ability is his missiles, which can be extremely useful for baiting out blocks from the opponent, as if they do, you could just wait until they stop blocking and then either immediately beam or special to them. There's a couple seconds delay in between blocking which can allow you to get a free hit on them without them being able to do anything. His special 2 is probably one of the best tools in the game for chipping at an opponent's health, as it has a high range and a very quick animation time. A small trick you can do is to use both of your melees while looking backwards, turn around, and then use your third melee. If you're lucky, you'll get a ridiculous grab on the opponent. One of Mecha's main weaknesses is how fat his hurt box is. This makes it so Mecha is very easy to combo if you get in his face. I've had situations where I've been able to combo a Mecha from full health to death simply because of how big his hitbox is. Mecha's ultimate gives him an Uno reverse card, and instead of chipping away, makes him one of the most aggro heavy kaiju in the game, as most of his attacks are grabs or make you lunge forward in some sort of way. This can be extremely frustrating if you are on the receiving end of this, as there isn't much you can do. Now, if the Mecha knows how to do the sacred 600 damage combo, God save you. Our next kaiju in A tier is Gigan. Now, I really won't be surprised if I see all the Gigan fanboys putting in their hate comments as I speak that he isn't in S tier, but Gigan used to be the best. Now, what I mean by this is that Gigan never actually got any worse or better, it's just that all the other kaijus got changed for the better. Gigan never actually got any worse, it's just that every other kaiju got better. Gigan's fast attacks and high damage specials for their speed would make an extremely scary opponent to fight if you aren't prepared. Now, you would think that this would make Gigan an extremely formidable opponent to fight, correct? Well, yes, but Gigan has a massive weakness that keeps him from the higher tiers. First off, his range. Being the same speed as G2000 and most of his attacks having the same range as his melee, makes it very easy to bully a Gigan just by staying out of his range. And yes, this is partially countered by flying, but even then you can just simply knock him out of the sky when they go in to attack you. Gigan's ultimate is one of the better ones in the game, as it has high damage and gives massive mobility when using it, meaning you don't have to use it right next to the opponent to actually hit them, though this really isn't recommended as it will take from the damage potential. I don't understand how, but Gigan somehow manages to be really good and really bad at the same time. At the top of A tier is Auger. Now, Auger has had a massive history of being one of the most broken kaijus in the game with his special free hitbox and the stupid amounts of damage he can do. Has he changed? No, he really hasn't. He's still a broken mess that does too much damage for his own good. Now, the one thing that keeps Auger in check is his slow speed and lack of range. That's something I would like to say if it weren't for his special attacks. His special one fires a ball of energy in front of you, dealing 55 damage to whatever it hits. Now, that doesn't sound too bad, does it? Well, what if I told you that it doesn't stop until it hits something? Yeah, this means that Auger can hit people from across the map, and because of game logic, it also goes through walls. Auger's special 2 makes him charge forward with armor, meaning that he can fully interrupt you from beaming just by pressing one button. The only way to avoid it is to block, which thank God you can block it, and then do a quick counterattack. His special 3 lets him lunge forward and grab the opponent. Yeah, that's right. It's a grab with massive range. What could possibly go wrong? Well, apparently everything. The only way you can dodge this attack is by using anything that gives you armor. For example, roaring or certain special attacks. Everything else doesn't work. You can't even run out of the way in time, since everyone is so slow in this game except Zilla. And no, before you ask, Zilla and Gigan can't jump over it. Auger's ultimate is one of the worst ones, as it can be very easily dodged just by running away due to its absurdly short range. Most of the time, you almost always have to use it after a grab, or it just won't hit. Overall, has massive potential in the right hands. Now it's time for S tier, the big bad, and the only deserving member of S tier. I have no idea why I'm trying to hype this up like it's a big surprise when there's only one option left, and yeah, it's Zilla. Now, I really don't know where to start for Zilla since there's almost nothing bad about him other than his health. Let's take a look at it one at a time. Zilla, being the fastest Kaiju in the game, can allow him to dodge significantly more attacks than other Kaiju can. Because of this, Zilla is able to stand much closer to an enemy than anyone else can. Zilla's special 1 has him lunge forward at rapid speed, dealing 45 damage. If you use it in the air, you'll be able to come crashing down on the opponent, dealing 40 damage. Now this may seem really basic, but the fact it has such a short animation and an instant use time makes it one of the hardest moves in the game to block if you're not expecting it. A really good way of dealing with beams is to jump in the air as they're beaming and then dive bomb onto them. The only problem with using this in the air is that if you miss, you will be left in a massive window for the opponent to attack you. His special 2 is almost identical to special 1, except you can't use it in the air. It travels slower and has less range, but does deal more damage at 55. I mainly use this to get away from an opponent, as using it while looking away from them can send them out of beam range. His special 3 is a beam attack that does significantly less damage than other beams at only 98, but it deploys much faster than others. This means that because of this, you can actually use your beam during a combo. Using his special 3 in the air makes you do another dive bomb, but it's more bomb than dive as you won't actually travel forward while doing so. Zilla's grab is probably the best in the game because of the fact that you lunge forward while doing so. This means that you can use it at the end of combos just to extend it that little bit more. Now that his abilities are out of the way, let's talk about his jump. Zilla's jump can allow the player to completely avoid most attacks in the game. There's really not much more to say. Now I'm not going to tell you just how many attacks Zilla can jump over, but it's almost all of them. Now I said there was nothing wrong with Zilla, but his ultimate is really similar to Kong's, in that it can be blocked at 95 stamina, but instead of being interruptible, you can just simply run away. Yeah, this is the one instance where you can actually run away from a Zilla. Because Zilla is easily the most complicated to learn, he's usually reserved for the better players in the game, which kinda sucks, speaking how amazing he is. Overall, extremely powerful in the hands of the right player. So that's my tier list. Feel free to start World War III in the comments about who is better than who. I'll be reading them with tea and biscuits in hand, enjoying the carnage. Hopefully the video was worth the wait, and if you don't think so, feel free to unsubscribe. I won't be missing you. Well, that's it now. See ya.